the impact of those bombs has been unclear. And so it appears that while these bombs did in fact inflict significant damage on the above ground structures at these nuclear facilities, the most sensitive and core parts of the nuclear program, which include the centrifuges, which include the highly enriched uranium, those do not appear to have been severely impacted, if impacted at all, with one of our sources who has seen the assessment describing all of those core components as largely intact. And so this is obviously going to raise new questions about why President Trump and the administration have been saying repeatedly that Iran's nuclear program has essentially been ended, that it has been completely obliterated.
Our obligation as journalists is not to praise President Trump or protect his feelings or to disparage him or to praise him for that matter. Our obligation is to report facts. In this case, the fact is that an initial DIA intel assessment out of Secretary Pete Hegseth's own Pentagon exists. And that's not going to change, no matter how many insults Trump levels. A lot of insults, by the way. In a Truth Social post, he calls CNN and the New York Times, quote, bad and sick people. The administration casts any reporting on any questioning on the success of an incredibly difficult military operation as fake, as unapproved.
There's so much more reporting to do on this topic. This is a very complex matter, even though Trump tried to make it sound simple on Saturday night. It's really important to note what CNN did not report. CNN did not report that this mission was a failure. Far from it. It may have turned out to be a tremendous success. We just don't know all the facts yet, and neither does the U.S. government.
Boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy, oh boy. So we got to talk about the mainstream liberal media, who is facing a whole lot of backlash from the Trump administration, Trump officials, over the false smear campaign that they try to run against the administration when it comes to these Iran strikes, right? Like I told you guys, they can't get their story straight in regards to whether or not President Trump's strikes on Iran's nuclear facilities were successful or not, right? Out of one side of their mouth, they're saying, well, Iran moved all the materials and therefore it was a failure. Out of the other side of their mouth, they're saying, well, the strikes weren't effective because they didn't actually destroy the facility. So at this point, again, they're trying to find a way to smear the president and the administration, including boohoo, whine, and crying sexism, over the fact that Pete Hegseth referred to the pilots who flew the planes as boys, right? Even though I think there was like one who may have been a female or something. But for whatever reason, the media is very caught up on this, right? They're very triggered by this. And Pete Hegseth did not hold back on the mainstream liberal media when it comes to their smear campaign and the propaganda. Take a look. What's where?
So why not acknowledge the female pilots that also participated in this mission? The early messages that you sent out only congratulated the boys.
So when I say something like our boys and bombers, see, this is the kind of thing the press does, right? Of course, the chairman mentioned a female bomber pilot. That's fantastic. She's fantastic. She's a hero. I want more female bomber pilots. I hope the men and women of our country sign up to do such brave and audacious things. But when you spin it as, because I say our boys and bombers as a common phrase, I'll keep saying things like that, whether they're men or women. I'm very proud of that female pilot, just like I'm very proud of those male pilots. And I don't care if it's a male or a female in that cockpit, and the American people don't care. But it's the obsession with race and gender in this department that's changed priorities. We don't do that anymore. We don't play your little games. Yes,
So
right there.
for certain that the uranium was removed from the facility before the B-2 struck?
So I'm not aware of any intelligence that I've reviewed that says things were not where they were supposed to be, moved around. Because you, and I mean specifically you, the press, specifically you, the press corps, because you cheer against Trump so hard, it's like in your DNA and in your blood to cheer against Trump, because you want him not to be successful so bad, you have to cheer against the efficacy of these strikes. You have to hope maybe they weren't effective. Maybe the way the Trump administration has represented them isn't true. So let's take half-truths, spun information, leaked information, and then spin it. Spin it in every way we can to try to cause doubt and manipulate the public mind over whether or not our brave pilots were successful. How many stories have been written about how hard it is I don't know, fly a plane for 36 hours. Has MSNBC done that story? Has Fox? Have we done the story how hard that is? Have we done it 2 or 3 times so that American people understand? How about how difficult it is to shoot a drone from an F-15 or 16 or F-22 or F-35? Or what it's like to man a Patriot battery? Or how hard it is to refuel midair? Giving the American people an understanding of how complex and sophisticated this mission really was. There are so many aspects of what our brave men and women did that because of the hatred of this press corps are undermined because your people are trying to leak and spin that it wasn't successful. It's irresponsible. And folks in this room are privy to that information because of the proximity here in the Pentagon. It's an important responsibility. And time again, classified information is leaked or peddled for political purposes to try to make the president look bad. And what's really happening is you're undermining the success of incredible B-2 pilots and incredible F-35 pilots and incredible refuelers and incredible air defenders who accomplished their mission, set back a nuclear program in ways that other presidents would have dreamed. How about we celebrate that? How about we talk about how special America is, that only we have these capabilities? I think it's too much to ask, unfortunately, for the fake news. So we're used to that. But we also have an opportunity to stand at the podium and read the truth of what's really happening. And the reality is you want to call it destroyed, you want to call it defeated, you want to call it obliterated, choose your word. This was an historically successful attack, and we should celebrate it as Americans. And it gives us a chance to have peace, chance to have a deal, and an opportunity to prevent a nuclear Iran, which is something President Trump talked about for 20 years.
No, we can't do that, right? No, we cannot celebrate American excellence because a lot of these people are anti-American, right? They're rooting against America, okay? I mean, a lot of these people actually are pro-Iran, right? This is why you have leftist Democrats. They were ready to get out there in the streets and to start protesting on behalf of Iran, okay? A lot of these people actually really do believe, well, who is the United States of America to say who can and can't have a nuke? Well, I mean, we are the United States of America. That's who we are, right? We have the most powerful military in the world, and if we say you can't have a nuke, then you can't have a nuke. That's just what it is, right? I mean, I don't understand why is that concept so controversial, so hard, right? Again, it's really about the strong and it's about the weak, okay? The United States, because we are the strongest country on earth, yeah, we can tell countries that you can't have a nuke. To a certain extent, obviously. Like, for example, relatively strong countries like Russia, China, and countries who already have nukes, no, we can't tell them they can't have nukes, right? They either already have nukes or, again, they're too strong for us to tell them that they can't have nukes, right? But for weak countries like Iran, okay, who we don't want to get strong, we want to make sure they stay weak because they have essentially threatened the United States and our allies. Yeah, we can tell them that, no, you can't have a nuke, right? We can definitely do that. I mean, I'm just saying, would any of these people be making this argument if Mexico said that, hey, we want a nuke? Would they be making an argument that we can't tell Mexico not to have a nuke? No, I think most people would agree, it's probably not a good idea for Mexico to have a nuke, especially considering how their country is run by cartels, okay? I'm just saying that a lot of these people, again, no, they don't want to celebrate the success of it because they root against America, right? They root against the United States military, and they want to see the evil American empire fall, right? This is what they want to see. So yeah, that is legitimately why they are trying to smear the Trump administration is because, again, they hate Trump and they are rooting against America, right? They would rather see America fall or not be successful than for Trump to win, right? Or to give President Trump credit for anything, in which President Trump made a decision that past presidents wanted to make, right? They wanted to do, they just didn't have the cojones to do it, okay? So with that being said, we got to talk about CNN, the network that is getting the most backlash over this because they're the ones that decided it would be a good idea to report on this leaked low confidence report as if it was basically factual that the strikes were not successful. Now, CNN, they knew exactly what they were doing, okay? They reported on top secret information that they should not have reported on, and they did it because they knew that Democrats, liberals, and the rest of the media would run with it in order to smear the president, okay? And the president, they're responding, they're pushing back against CNN. As President Trump put this out here on True Social, he says, Natasha Bertrand should be fired from CNN. I watched her for 3 days doing fake news. She should be immediately reprimanded and then thrown out like a dog. She lied on the laptop from hell story, and now she lied on the nuclear site story, attempting to destroy our Patriot pilots by making them look bad when, in fact, they did a great job and hit pay dirt. Total obliteration. She should not be allowed to work at fake news CNN. It's people like her who destroyed the reputation of a once great network. Her slant was so obviously negative. Besides, she doesn't have what it takes to be an on-camera correspondent. Not even close. Fire Natasha. Yeah. So the Trump administration has basically declared war on CNN because there is other intelligence coming out, including from independent sources outside the United States, basically confirming what President Trump said was true, which is that there was significant damage done to the Iranian nuclear facilities, setting them back possibly years, okay, which, again, is not what CNN initially reported. That's not the narrative that they initially put out there, but the more information that comes out, the more stupid that they look. And this is why they're in full-blown panic mode over this.
I will add Natasha Bertrand of CNN, who has done this in the past. In 2020, it was Natasha Bertrand who had 51 intelligence analysts falsely lie to her, but she still put it on paper for some reason, that the Hunter Biden laptop story was Russian disinformation. We all know that's not true, right? We can all agree on that now. That was a lie from the intelligence community. Also in 2020, this same reporter, Natasha Bertrand, wrote that a top intel agency ruled out the man-made lab leak theory of the coronavirus origins. Again, the president was right about that. This reporter wrote a lie from the intelligence community to seek a narrative she wanted to prove, and guess what? We now know that's the truth. Also, in 2024, Bertrand pushed the suckers and losers hoax. She also pushed the fine people hoax, which was taking the president's words purposely out of context. And then last October, and I believe this is notable, Natasha Bertrand published an article in Politico from the intelligence agency. She said that John Ratcliffe was speaking without any evidence when he said Iran was attempting to undermine President Trump's presidential campaign. And then we, of course, found out that was absolutely true. In fact, the Biden administration declassed an intel report which said they had high confidence that Iran had done exactly what Ratcliffe alleged. They did run an influence campaign to hurt President Trump's candidacy. In fact, we know the Iranians tried to take President Trump's life. And so this is a reporter who has been unfortunately used by people who dislike Donald Trump in this government to push fake and false narratives. She should be ashamed of herself. And that's not what reporting is. Journalism is trying to find the facts and the truth. And this week, we saw this same reporter being used to push a fake narrative to try to undermine the President of the United States, and more importantly, the brave fighter pilots who conducted one of the most successful operations in United States history. And I think the American people fully know that this operation was a complete and total success.
Here today, I know you're looking for this leaker. Is it your belief, I know you said earlier you're not sure if it's on Capitol Hill or at the Pentagon, but is it your belief that it might be in Capitol Hill, and how confident are you that you'll find this leaker?
Well, I'm not personally looking for the leaker. The FBI is looking for the leaker, so you'll have to ask them in the Department of Justice in terms of this investigation. But you know, leaking top secret classified intelligence is a crime, and people need to be held accountable for that crime.
And can I just ask you about how you're going to be limiting intel to Congress? What would you say to lawmakers who say they have oversight privileges, they need this information?
This administration wants to ensure that classified intelligence is not ending up in irresponsible hands, and that people who have the privilege of viewing this top secret classified information are being responsible with it. And unfortunately, clearly, someone who had their hands on this, and it was a very few people, few number of people in our government who saw this report, that person was irresponsible with it, and we need to get to the bottom of it, and we need to strengthen that process to protect our national security and protect the American public. Mary Margaret, go ahead.
That's right. Natasha was one of three bylines, three reporters with three separate sources on the initial Tuesday story. And within a number of hours, we saw the New York Times, the Washington Post, the Associated Press, Fox News, and other outlets all match that reporting. So when Caroline Leavitt talks about one leaker and claiming the FBI will find that one leaker, I think it's important to note that these stories from CNN and other outlets were sourced to multiple anonymous sources. And there was not just one reporter on this story. where there were many reporters on this story. Natasha does have an outstanding reputation, a great history of reporting. So I think those petty personal attacks from the White House podium, they reveal more about the White House than they do about CNN or any other news outlet in this case. That story on Tuesday was not supposed to be the final word. In some ways, it was just the first word as more and more reporting is done about this topic. But because President Trump used the word obliterated instantly on Saturday night and has insisted on it ever since, this is now a muddy issue. And I think we see what's going on here. Most viewers see the game that's being played by the administration. It's an attempt to attack the messenger so that people will dismiss the message.
But at the same time, we do need to make clear that despite the emotional speech and outrage from the defense secretary, what he said about the DIA assessment is what CNN reported on. His issue that he took about it being preliminary, about it being low confidence. CNN reported on all of this. I was looking back just to make sure that we had it all throughout the reporting process. CNN had reported that it is preliminary and, of course, can be updated, including these two parts. It is still early, we reported in our initial report, for the U.S. to have a comprehensive picture of the impact of the strikes. None of the sources described how the DIA assessment compares to the views of other agencies in the intelligence community. The U.S. is continuing to pick up intelligence, including from within Iran, as they assess the damage. Also in CNN reporting, where the secretary took real issue and seemed very upset about it not being stated that there was low confidence stated in this DIA assessment. Also in CNN reporting, including this, the final U.S. military battle damage assessment by the DIA could take days or even weeks to complete. Multiple sources familiar with the Pentagon's process told CNN the initial DIA analysis was produced just 24 hours after the attack, according to one of the sources, because it was only a preliminary analysis. Its judgments were low confidence, the sources said. It was not coordinated with the wider intelligence community, according to a U.S. official, and the document itself acknowledged that it could take weeks to produce a finalized assessment. So
I just want to note here that in the initial reporting from Natasha Bertrand, she did not stress that this report was low confidence, that, hey, take this report with a grain of salt, okay? We really don't know if this is true. Again, they have low confidence in this. That's not what she stressed. What she actually stressed is that, well, Trump said it was obliterated, but the report says it wasn't, right? She didn't stress that, this report is probably a report that we really should not take too seriously, right? She didn't say that, okay? She did not stress the fact that the viewers should probably, again, not really pay much attention to this report. That's not what she did, okay? CNN knows exactly what they did, and now they're upset, they're mad, okay? They're in damage control mode because of the fact that they're being called out on their BS. And again, it's just looking worse and worse and worse for CNN as more reporting comes out suggesting that they were, in fact, wrong, okay? They're in so much damage control that they're actually bringing people in the network to tell the truth, okay, about the damage that was done, or what appears to be the truth in regards to the damage that was done from these strikes. Take a look.
What we now know from that briefing, first time we know it, is that as it was designed, as these massive ordnance penetrators with significant computer software engineering went directly down those 3 ventilator shafts, specifically as designed. And until you actually do it, you never know if it's going to work. It worked. It seems to have worked flawlessly. That is very important information. He also pointed out some things we take for granted. A Patriot interceptor is traveling at 3,000 miles an hour, about Mach 4, to hit a ballistic missile, traveling at about 6,000 miles an hour, Mach 8. This is really difficult. We take for granted how this stuff all works. I thought that was very important to lay out. So as I come out of this briefing, I now know BDA level 2, as I mentioned. Level 1, first 24 hours, you're looking at imagery. Level 2, did the ordnance work? Did everything go as we had wanted? The answer now is yes. And we're now in the phase of level 3, collecting all sources of information, and then putting that together with nuclear experts to determine if they have these pieces and parts here, could they reconstitute them? With some political analysts to say, would the Iranians do that? What would be the restraints? To then have a comprehensive assessment of where we are. With the objective being, Iran can never have a nuclear weapon, and its enrichment program has to be completely destroyed. I think from what I've seen, the 20,000 centrifuges, you had about 17,000 in Natanz, about 3,000 in Fordo. They are all completely destroyed. I am very confident those centrifuges are gone. The Israelis destroyed the centrifuge manufacturing production facilities that we know of. Isfahan, which is the conversion facility, key part of the fuel cycle, also appears to have been destroyed. So if you add it up from what we're seeing, massive catastrophic setback for Iran's program. The term of art, obliterated, destroyed, I kind of step out of that. This is an analytical process. It's important for the professionals now in the intelligence community to be able to do their work without political pressure and come out with their assessments. And we'll know soon enough. There's a lot of work going on here from U.S. intelligence agencies, from Mossad and the Israelis, from other partners. But I thought that briefing was important. We now know that operation that was developed over multiple administrations worked exactly as it was designed. So I didn't know that. I couldn't have confirmed that 24 hours ago. I now know those 3 ventilators, they went down there and it worked. That's new. And that means probably Fordo is rendered inoperable for the foreseeable future, probably forever.
Boom. Boom. Complete and total embarrassment for CNN. Complete and total embarrassment for all of these liberals who went out here and they peddled this report from CNN, which, by the way, again, why would anybody believe this? Okay, why would anybody believe CNN? The same people who peddled the Russia hoax, the same people who claimed that Hunter Biden's laptop was Russian disinformation, the same people who dismissed the lab leak theory. I mean, these people, we know for a fact that what they report on is not facts, okay? It is narrative, okay? It is propaganda. It is always against Trump. They will lie before telling the truth if the truth benefits Trump. If it makes Trump look good, they will lie. So with that being said, again, like I told you guys, we're going to know for sure, right, what happened. Because again, if the United States and Israel, if they start kicking and screaming and crying about Iran having a nuke again, then you know it didn't work, right? You know that, okay, well, this didn't work, right? But okay, if they don't, okay, if this is something where we don't hear about this again, at least for another year or two, then you know, okay, all right, well, it worked, right? Because they're not kicking and screaming and crying about Iran getting a nuke, okay? So I'm just saying that we will know, okay? Because, again, if they were not successful when it comes to the strike, then you're going to see the conflict tick back up again, right? It's going to be an issue again in the near future. Maybe in a few months, right? If that's the case, if CNN's reporting is correct, right? But I personally, at this point, think that it was not correct. I personally, at this point, think that there was a conspiracy to basically undermine the president, okay? There were people who were collaborating in order to make Democrats look good, right? To give a talking point to the anti-Trump liberal media. And now they all look silly, right? Now they all look really, really, really bad by reporting on this and pretending as if this operation was a failure before waiting for more facts to come out to verify exactly how much damage was done. So let me know what you guys think. Make sure you like, comment, and subscribe. Most importantly, share a Black conservative perspective. Peace.